U.S. Navy officials said the aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt is headed toward Yemen to join other American naval vessels in the region. The warships are preparing to intercept Iranian boats suspected of transporting weapons to the Houthi rebels. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said the U.S. has concerns about Iran's continued military support of the rebels. Charles Goldberg is an international security policy analyst and Arise News contributor, and he's joining me here in the New York studio. Hi, Charles. Thank you so much for coming. Nice to meet you. Welcome to the Arise family. Let me just ask you this very basic question. How ominous is this decision?
Well, I think it's really a move to show U.S. strength and determination to support the UN Security Council resolution passed last week to blockade weapons from the Houthi rebels. The Iranians have made clear what their interests are in the region. They've announced that these ships they're not trying to conceal that these ships are going to supply the Houthi rebels, so it looks like they're trying to make a point to their regional enemies, Saudi Arabia and Egypt. And the United States is now sending a message back, clearly announcing it and not hiding and saying we're going to counter any supply effort ourselves by sending an aircraft carrier in addition to the other ships we have in the region.
So, Charles, in addition to this sending a message, show of force, if you will, it has been speculated, because the U.S. government has not confirmed this, that this ship will then help intercept these other vessels, the Iranian vessels that are on their way to Yemen. What's the likelihood that the Iranians will allow any U.S. personnel to stop and board their vessels?
Well, this ship is an aircraft carrier, so it's not necessarily the ship that's going to actually interdict naval vessels.
In fact, vessels that are already there have that capability.
Right. They already have the vessels there. I think this is really, and that's why I said before, I think this is really a show of force. This is a projection of military strength by the United States, showing Iran we're going to bring in an aircraft carrier with all the capabilities it has, with the military aircraft it has, and we're going to support our other ships that do interdiction, and that we're serious about this. This isn't something that they can mess around with.
I don't mean to be alarmist by asking you this question, but some might be worried about this. Is this the beginning of mission creep in that area?
I don't think so. I really think President Obama has made it clear that he's not interested in getting involved in wars, even in limited air campaigns, for example, as in Syria. He backed off once the Syrians agreed to go with their chemical weapons. So I think it's very clear to me that the U.S. doesn't have an interest in a fighting and a shooting war. They're just trying to show the Iranians that there's a limit to how much they can get away with when it comes to supplying the Houthi rebels. But the more important issue, the nuclear talks, are an indication that the United States wants to balance its interests in the region. And it wouldn't be in the interests of the Iranians or of the United States to begin an actual shooting war, because the larger interest for the Iranians is the removal of sanctions. And obviously, this nuclear deal is more important to them than supplying a local regional puppet.
Well, you just telescoped my next question, so let me just simply ask you this. Could this derail what progress has been made in the nuclear talks?
If things escalated out of control, I'm sure it could. But and there's always a risk of that happening in a situation where two navies are nearing each other and about to come into conflict. But again, it doesn't make sense. I think the Iranian regime has an interest in not having this conflict. They clearly are interested, most importantly, in getting rid of the economic sanctions. They made that very clear. The nuclear deal is getting close to being negotiated. It seems like the Obama administration has made it a priority. So I don't think that there's incentive on either side, and especially not on the Iranian side, to have a direct confrontation. I think the Iranians are looking to bring these ships in to show the Saudis and the Egyptians, who are actually enforcing this blockade that the UN Security Council passed last week, that they're not in agreement with what the Saudis are doing. And the Saudis and the Iranians are fighting proxy wars all over the region. In Syria, most obviously, but also...
And Yemen is the latest.
And Yemen is just the latest one of those. And I think this has more to do with the United States showing we're going to stand behind our allies, Egypt and Saudi Arabia. And the Iranians, I would expect, would back off. But there have been cases in the past where the U.S. has interdicted Iranian weapons.
I suspect we might talk about this again, so we'll see if you're right about that. Charles Goldberg, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.